It's a new month, and that means it's another time for a monthly discussion with my normal guest, Sam.
Hey, thanks for having me as usual.
Yep. Thanks for coming back. I don't know why you always do, but you do.
Yep.
You must really like me.
Well, I do, and I love talking about wrestling.
Well, I second your comment, but reverse the roles, as I like you, and I enjoy talking about wrestling too. Well, now with that out of the way, we got some stuff to talk about, and instead of attacking things the way we usually do, I'm gonna go a different way with it this time, and say, do you think that WWE still books for the ratings like they did when we first started watching wrestling? Or, hold on one sec. Okay, now to the question I was going to ask, before the phone call. Do you think that, based on the last couple of weeks, do you think that WWE still books for the ratings like they used to in when we first started watching, in the beginning of the decade, or more accurately, the beginning of the century, but, or do you think that they, somewhere along the line, changed the philosophy of ratings matter?
I think, to be brutally honest, if they cared about the ratings, the show wouldn't be as bad as it is.
Yeah.
As Rollins pointed out, it's been really bad. I honestly couldn't tell you who they're, directing this show for. Because nobody wants to see what's happening.
Yeah. Based on from what I've heard, the ratings for Raw have slowly but surely dropped every week since about Survivor Series. And either it was this week or this past or last week that they hit a record low for the show ever. So I don't know exactly what they're doing wrong, because I thought last week's Raw was better than a few weeks ago, but that really doesn't say much because they're not really setting the bar too high.
It's been awful, to say the least.
Now, this would, for, marks, as people would say, would bring up the question of, oh, WWE needs to increase the television rating. That's going to help. That's going to fix things. That's, the furthest thing from the truth, because I don't think that it's that much of a simple fix. Would you agree?
It's not just going to change overnight.
Yeah. Because it's, you're not, I think I'm right with everybody else that, Rollins' promo, I don't know if you watched, highlight packages or, went on YouTube and saw any highlights of Raw, but Rollins' promo, many say, is what Triple H speaking for him, and then Baron Corbin was Vince McMahon.
Yeah, very well could be.
That maybe Rollins gave a glimpse of what could happen when Triple H takes over. Or what the future could be when Triple H takes over.
Yeah. Clearly that was written, so somebody wanted that.
Now, do you think that Vince is going to rely on the old, all I need to do is appear on the show, and then it's going to boost the ratings, because when I appear, the ratings go up? Or do you think it was more along the lines of just a, nod and a wink that, the show sucks, and we're telling you that it sucks, but stick around, it's going to get better?
Yeah, I think, they're not stupid, they know what people are saying.
Yeah.
And that's kind of getting ahead of it. Like, yeah, we suck. We know we suck. We're totally cool, you know. We're in, you know, like they're almost in on the joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Now, would you say that Raw's been the only problem, or has SmackDown been just as bad?
SmackDown hasn't been as bad, but, like, I tweeted a couple of weeks ago, like, as much as I love seeing Charlotte and Becky fight, it's literally Charlotte and Becky every pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's getting to be repetitive.
Yeah.
Like, even with AJ Styles, before he lost the title, you know, he had the same 8 matches with Shinsuke Nakamura. And then he had, like, the same 5 matches with Daniel Bryan before, you know what I mean? Like, it finally changed. But as much as I'd love to see these people, you know, they're, again, Charlotte and, you know, Becky can fight all they want, but I don't want to see it every week.
Yeah.
Naomi, there's Asuka, like, there's people that...
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said in the article I put up today, that I tried to be positive about Raw this week, so I figured, okay, let me be negative about SmackDown. The one negative that I took from SmackDown was the random tag team match with Rusev and Jeff Hardy against Shinsuke Nakamura and Samoa Joe, that WWE relies too much on the random tag team matches to hype up a pay-per-view match, instead of, you could have just done a highlight package with Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy highlighting what happened in the last couple of weeks, because you have that much emotion in the feud that letting people catch up on what happened in that way would have been better.
Yep, or even, like, back to, you know, Charlotte and Becky for a minute. When Becky announced that she couldn't fight Ronda at Survivor Series, they had them hug. Like, they had this epic rivalry. Like, they hate each other. And now they're hugging in the ring, and you're telling her that she's going to beat Ronda Rousey. But then the next week, they go back to hating each other.
Well, it's like...
been an issue with Raw, too, where it's like, you need consistency here.
Yeah, it's like Nia Jax face heel turns.
Yeah.
You know, Big Show might be retiring, but we have a new Big Show as far as facing heel turns. Speaking of Nia Jax heel turns, your opinion?
I am not a fan of Nia Jax. I honestly don't see why I don't see what people see in her.
I mean, I see why she could be a monster heel, but she has about as much talent as Tamina, and Tamina's been in the company since 2010.
And hasn't done anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, let's be real, Nia is not a good wrestler.
No.
But neither was Hulk Hogan. And I'm not comparing her to Hulk Hogan, but neither was Hulk Hogan.
True. Fair point.
He made up for that in his charisma. Again, I'm not comparing the two, but Nia might be better as a manager. Like, if they gave her kind of the Lana role.
Well, but at least Lana can talk. Nia's idea of talking is screaming into the microphone until she breaks the microphone.
Yeah, I know I'm trying to be nice and find a...
Well, what I'll say is that, not to interrupt, but I know how you feel about Baron Corbin.
Well, I don't know. I'm very much trying to
Because seeing Nia Jax on TV makes me want to do the same thing that when you see Baron Corbin.
Yes.
And at first I thought, okay, fine, Nia Jax, Ronda, maybe give him a second chance. But Nia's only good match in WWE was with Bayley. In my opinion. Ronda can't carry a match yet. She needs somebody like an Alexa Bliss, like a Bayley, like a Sasha Banks to help her in the ring. Not Nia where they're having a match where Ronda's getting bumped around the ring. Not to say Ronda can't bump around the ring, but Nia's too green to be able to work a match like that. And please, Nia, if you hear this video, just block me. I don't care. I don't care. You like it when haters hate on you? Fine. You're an untalented person who only got the job that you have because your cousin's The Rock.
I wasn't gonna say it, but I'm thinking it.
And that says something because you're usually the positive one, and if you're thinking about being negative like me, well, that means that you honestly feel that way. But I would have rather have seen anybody else win the Battle Royal other than Nia Jax.
Yeah, and it's not to say she doesn't put in the work. I don't doubt that she puts in the work. It's just wrestling is not for everybody. Look at Eva Marie.
Yeah.
She's physically fit. She's athletic. But she was a horrendous wrestler.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for everybody. I know Nia played sports, and that's great, but that doesn't mean you're going to be a great wrestler.
Yeah, I mean, and no, this is not a slight on her appearance or anything like that. It's just her skills in the ring are not where they should be, because you want to say, oh, people like that don't work. Awesome Kong was very good in the ring. But it's just that I feel like people of that variety have a shelf life. And once they hit their shelf life, it's hard to make a believable babyface out of a person like that. Like, it's easier to make an evil heel monster than it is to make a monster heel turn babyface. Because that's like saying, Missing Link was a better heel a better babyface than a heel, or Bam Bam Bigelow was a better heel, or a better babyface than a heel. No, Bam Bam Bigelow was a better heel. Big Boss Man, better heel. Yeah, fine. Oh, Big Boss Man was not the same as Bam Bam Bigelow. You might be right, but it's the same concept that a big guy like those guys. Boss Man was over 300 pounds, so in the same comparison, that's like saying Yokozuna was a good heel. A babyface. Or Vader was a good babyface. Vader's idea of being a babyface was calling himself a fat piece of shit. Which he actually said, if for anybody listening that doesn't believe me, you watch I think it was No Way Out 1998, where he actually says it on the air, he calls himself a fat piece of shit. But you're also talking about the same person who caught himself underneath the ramp when the pyro goes off, and not exactly where you want to be when pyro's going off. But would you agree that, a monster heel doesn't always work as a babyface?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But also it's just, for me, I find it hard to invest in Nia as a heel, knowing that less than a year ago she was being like that investable, bankable babyface who was being bullied by the better looking champion, and now she's this evil heel and all that stuff, even though Ronda should be the one turning heel, because Ronda would be better off as a heel. Let her keep turning herself, because that's what's happening. Oh, but she's the marketable mainstream star. She could be a heel. Look at The Miz. Miz was so good he turned himself babyface. Or he's in the process of turning himself babyface. It's just... would you agree that the road to WrestleMania would help in the ratings?
If it's done right, yes.
But do you think that's just going to give a honeymoon from the real problem? Or do you think that's actually going to fix things?
If they continue down the right path. It all depends.
Because we could be, once January comes around, it's going to start the road to WrestleMania, and then, beside the point, the road to WrestleMania doesn't start till Royal Rumble. The change in WWE programming starts once January hits January 1st. But then it's January to March, or January to early April, and then after WrestleMania, who said TV's not going to go back to how it is now?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that unoptimistic, but WWE doesn't make it easy to be optimistic.
No, you're right.
Speaking of optimism, though, did you I could be wrong, but I think Daniel Bryan winning the title happened after our last recording, so I think I would be inept to not ask you about Daniel Bryan and him being WWE champion again.
I personally like Daniel Bryan. I know a lot of people are tired of him, or maybe just want to see other people. I don't really like this new Daniel Bryan, because I think Daniel Bryan works better as a face. I don't really think that they needed to turn him. I mean, you have Samoa Joe, you have Shinsuke Nakamura, you have The Miz. Like, I don't think you needed another heel.
Well, I know that Daniel was the one who wanted to be turned. And from when recent programming it seems like Miz could be turning babyface. Which I think this time would work better than his last time. I think that having a break from Daniel as a babyface might be a good thing. But comparison, I think that WWE is trying too hard to overcomplicate things with Daniel Bryan, much like they're doing with Dean Ambrose. But whose heel persona do you prefer, Daniel or Dean Ambrose?
I like Dean Ambrose. It's weird and a bit over the top, but I think Dean Ambrose as a heel makes more sense than...
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I mean, I've heard that Dean has done amazing promos since he left, since he turned heel. I guess it's just the fact that I think that the focus of their feud should have been more on Seth and Dean, and maybe saving or maybe like Dean saying he didn't turn on Seth, he turned on the fans, and that would have been made more sense to him saying he wants to, get all these shots to make sure he doesn't get sick from the fans and stuff like that. That the focus of the feud should have been more narrow-minded rather than the way it is.
Yes.
I mean, but as far as Daniel's concerned, I think it might have just been 1 week, but I think now he's reminding me a little bit about Kurt Cobain. Just, with a beard, because, Kurt Cobain didn't.
Yeah.
Or did Kurt Cobain have a beard? I don't know. Yeah, but he reminds me a little bit of Kurt Cobain since he turned heel.
I can see that.
Yeah, so, Daniel's going into the fellow Washington native, and Dean Ambrose is showing his Batman knowledge of becoming Bane. Or the Penguin, whichever you prefer. Because that mask kind of reminds me of the Penguin more than Bane, but...
It is a little creepy.
Yeah. Now, if he starts talking like Tom Hardy, then you're gonna... start questioning it. But speaking of questioning it, the WWE announcing. Now, I've been one, not recently, because I've actually been more praising. I feel like TNA's or Impact Wrestling's has been more praiseworthy than WWE's, because Josh has found his partner in Don Callis. And I feel like Don Callis being there does help the company because he's one of the bookers for the company, so having the booker on commentary always helps. Because if anybody's going to know how to get something over, it's the guy who's writing the show. Which I think is one thing that WWE doesn't do good, that maybe having an agent on the show that knows how to get something over might be a good idea. But what is your opinion on, like as a whole, the announced teams?
What's my opinion on the announced teams?
Yeah, for WWE.
I don't know. That's a good question. It's kind of annoying, like, Corey Graves is like the heel commentator. Like, I know you don't want them to agree on everything, but I don't know. I mean, I guess I'm biased because I grew up with JR and JR and the King, and it made you want to watch the match. Like, they made it interesting. Now it's always about getting the story, like, something else over. If that makes sense, as opposed to the match.
Yeah.
And a lot of it just seems so forced.
Yeah, I mean, but JR was that good that he could just commentate by himself and it would act like he was having a partner. But, I mean, the one criticism I would have of TNA is that I used to say that the having bad announced team makes it hard to watch the show. And, I mean, yes, they went through the periods of Josh Matthews with Jeremy Borash and Pope, and Josh Matthews with Sanjay Dutt, and now Josh and Don, and I feel like Josh and Don is the best pairing that they've had since all this, identity crisis happened. But I also maybe think that it's that way because they have a two-man announce team.
Yeah, the three-man announce team definitely takes away, from a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I think NXT makes it work with Percy, Nigel, and Marrow, but I think it takes away from the identities, like having different identities for Raw and SmackDown, because Raw and SmackDown should have different identities, and the only way you have different identities is hearing different people.
No, you're right. Like, Corey's literally on both shows.
Like maybe they should do what WCW used to do when they were 3 hours, having I believe it was Mike Tenay, Larry Zbyszko, and Tony Schiavone for the first 2 hours, and then Bobby Heenan would join him for the last hour, and Larry would leave, I believe. So at least you would hear a different voice. So maybe like Renee and Michael for the first 2 hours, and then Corey would join him for the last.
Yeah, see that? It would make more sense. Or even, like, you mentioned Renee, like, they're trying to drag her into the Ambrose Rollins storyline, where Corey asks her every week, what do you know about this? Like, Why? Like, I get that they're married, but it doesn't need to be brought up every time.
Yeah.
It kind of takes away from the. It takes away from her job as a commentator.
Yeah.
And it takes away from the storyline.
Yeah.
Commentators shouldn't be involved in storylines, period.
Oh, no, I agree. I agree completely. And I think that that's one thing that, Impact Wrestling learned, that, when they did Jeremy Borash and Josh Matthews, that it worked as well as Jerry King Lawler and Michael Cole.
Yeah.
At least Impact Wrestling knew enough to put wrestlers in the storyline, too, and not other announcers. Or Jack Swagger, but, sorry, Lucha Underground. Or even having, Corey just move to SmackDown, or Corey stay on Raw, and having SmackDown be Tom Phillips and Byron? Or whoever the...
It's Byron. Is it? It's Byron.
Yeah.
Not bad that we don't know that.
Yeah.
But that's the whole point. It takes away Corey being on both shows, and I'm not taking away his talent, because I think he's a phenomenal commentator. Like, I think he's great.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But him being on both shows, kind of, you're right, it takes away. Like, I literally don't remember who's on SmackDown because it's always Corey.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree. And I think that would be, that makes it harder to watch it. I mean, I would be more likely to watch SmackDown than Raw, just because of the fact that SmackDown, I feel like, would go by faster. Because Raw's more of a... Raw's more of a, a harder thing to sit through than SmackDown because of that extra hour.
Yeah.
No. But it's not going anywhere. Now with our employment hopes, or at least my employment hopes for WWE down the toilet, because they're not going to hire me after ripping them apart for the last 27 minutes, we slide ahead to looking to next year, and the other part of the video that I was looking at was, if you could pick anything you want for that you would like to see happen in 2019, what would you pick?
Finn Balor, Universal Champion.
Wow, that didn't take long.
No, I've been waiting since he returned from his injury to become Universal Champion again.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I mean, it didn't make sense why they never gave him the chance, but, I guess Vince is the reason, but maybe by the time Hunter takes over, Hunter will have a better, more optimistic opinion of Finn.
Let's hope so.
If I had to guess or say anything, it would be that Brock leaves after WrestleMania.
I have my fingers crossed for that one too.
Because right now the rumor is that Brock will fight Rollins or some variation of Rollins and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, or Braun Strowman. Right now the rumor is a fatal four-way with Braun Strowman, Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins, and Brock Lesnar fighting for the Universal title at WrestleMania. To anybody who thinks that that is surprised that Brock would still be the Universal Champion at WrestleMania, well, that's stupid. The other rumor is that Brock could be gone after the Royal Rumble, but I don't see Brock leaving after the Rumble. I see him staying at least until WrestleMania to make what Dana White said, that Brock signed a few recent deals with WWE seem more accurate, because it would make more sense him re-signing at Survivor Series Not Survivor Series. Before Survivor Series. Oh, that's right. Hell in a Cell. See, I haven't. I don't even know when he re-signed. That it would have been for WrestleMania to make sure that they had a big name for WrestleMania, knowing that Roman Reigns and possibly Triple H won't be at WrestleMania.
I vaguely read somewhere, I didn't read the article, but I know Lesnar was not allowed to fight because he failed a drug test, but I read somewhere that might have been a mistake, so he might be... Like, I could see him leaving sooner rather than later.
Well, it was that he did get suspended from the drug testing pool, but once he re-entered the drug testing pool, he had to be in for like 6 months and not have any failed drug tests. So once, as long as that comes back clean, I think January would be when he would be eligible to return to the UFC. But I don't know if Dana would let him work WWE and fight for him. So I don't know if he would have to wait until he's done with WWE, or maybe he, I think he might actually have a fight set for January, but I'm not sure. Because it might be him against Cormier in January, I forget.
I don't remember.
Yeah. We're not UFC fans. Apparently we're not much WWE fans either, but okay. Well, because we don't watch the shows. Well, if WWE made it better, we would make the time to watch them.
Exactly.
Because, just to sidetrack away for a second from the 2019 outlook, this is the last pay-per-view for 2018, coming up this weekend, that being TLC. I think I know the answer to the question, but I'll figure I'll ask it anyway. Are you gonna watch TLC?
No, honestly, I don't have the WWE Network. But even if I did, I'm not really interested in anything. I mean, other than the Asuka Charlotte Becky match, I'm not really interested in anything.
Yeah. I do, but I'm still not gonna watch it because, as I actually said in the article that is going up today, cheap plug, that one thing that WWE has struggled with since WrestleMania, and the only reason why I watched WrestleMania was because it was WrestleMania, and the same with the Royal Rumble, the only reason. Yeah?
Your mother called me and said to make sure you wear your glasses and make sure you wear a sweatshirt with a hood on.
Okay.
It might be raining when you get out.
Okay. That you only watch the Royal Rumble because it's a Royal Rumble, and you only watch WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania. But since WrestleMania, they've had a difficulty of building pay-per-views worth watching. And you only watch the ones with the reputation that they're good pay-per-views.
Yep.
And that's the problem with WWE, that the reason why the attendance is dropping off is not because of the television rating, it's not because of this, it's not because of that, it's just because they're not putting together compelling storylines, and they're overcomplicating it. Well, and repetition, but that's beside the point.
No, you're 100% right.
Yeah. Sorry, WWE. But with all that being said, if you had to pick a wrestler of the year for 2018, who would you select?
I gotta go with the man, Becky Lynch. I think she's proven herself to be one of the top female or male in the business.
True.
I mean, look at where she started the year and look at where she's ending it.
True. I mean, heading for a WrestleMania match with Ronda Rousey.
And that, to me, is
Probably.
organic. She wasn't pushed down our throat. She was actually underutilized.
Yeah.
And that was an organic, fans wanted to see her.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I honestly think that she flew so under the radar that I didn't even include her in the voting for Wrestler of the Year for Wrestling Express Awards. I mean, I didn't include Roman Reigns for a different reason, but I mean, it's more that I didn't even think about her. But now that you point that out, I would probably say either her or AJ Styles. That even though AJ had the repetition, most of his matches, even being repetitive matches, were still good. And even though he was underbooked for most of the year, it was still very good matches. I mean, I would probably give a little bit of the edge to Becky Lynch just because it was something new. But yeah, I mean, it's been an interesting year, and I think 2019 is going to be just as interesting, or even more interesting than 2018, because of all the rumors and innuendo that are going into the year. Specifically, one major rumor, and that being the XFL and Vince McMahon stepping aside to focus more on the XFL, which launches in 2020. Which means at some point in 2019, he's probably going to step back a little bit further to give Triple H a little bit more control. Well, Triple H and Stephanie.
Yeah, I definitely think that 2019 is going to be a better year.
Yeah. Before we go, there's one other rumor that I heard about, and there's a rumor that first part is, do you think that title changes still help boost ratings, or do you think that only helps boost ratings when the title change happens on the show and not at the pay-per-view?
I don't think it means anything anymore because it's been, you've seen titles change hands at the drop of a hat.
Do you think a new champion can help boost
Depending
ratings?
on the champion, yes.
Well, now there's a rumor going around. I forget what the name of the site was, but I think it's I think it might have been Fightful.com or one of those reliable dirt sheets that said that there's expected, or it might have been, no, it might have been Brad Shepard. I know the guy's name. I know his name. I think it's maybe Sportskeeda or some, one of those sites. Said that there's expected to be at least 3 title changes at TLC this weekend. The first thought that popped into my head was, I hope to God that they don't put the title on Ronda, take the title off Ronda, and have Nia be the first one to give Ronda a loss in the company. But the other idea is Daniel needs to keep the title, and it can't be Daniel dropping the belt. Because I don't want to see AJ Styles win back the title again. This fast.
Yeah, I don't see it being him.
With that being said, what titles do you think, or would you think, could change hands at TLC? To line up with the rumor.
What is even on the line?
The SmackDown Tag titles.
I could see Dean Ambrose winning the Intercontinental title because that frees up Seth Rollins to go after the Universal Championship.
True. The SmackDown Tag titles are on the line.
See, that changed. I don't even know who's the champion anymore because it changes hands so many times.
I think the Bar are still the champions.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't really care about that because it changes hands so many times. It's the 3. There's apparently 3 tag teams on SmackDown: the Bar, the New Day, and the Usos.
Yep, pretty much.
So that'll probably change hands because it changes hands every 4 months.
Shinsuke Nakamura, I'm pretty sure, should be defending the title. I wouldn't be surprised if he isn't.
Champion, he should lose that. He hasn't done anything. That's nothing against Shinsuke Nakamura, but he hasn't done anything.
Because Rusev, I'm assuming Rusev is challenging for the title. The SmackDown Women's title's on the line, but I can't see them taking it off Becky.
I don't think Becky's gonna lose.
I'd be surprised if the Cruiserweight title was on the line, but it could be. To be fair, I don't even know who the Cruiserweight champion is.
I don't know who the Cruiserweight. Buddy Murphy. It's Buddy Murphy.
Oh, okay.
The last time I checked, it was Buddy Murphy.
So, I wouldn't even be able to tell you if Buddy Murphy's fighting. It doesn't really matter because that's probably the pre-show match. If he is. I mean, other than that, I know Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy, but that's not for a title. Randy Orton and Rey Mysterio, but that's not for a title. Baron Corbin, possibly against Bray Wyatt, possibly against Braun Strowman. I feel like there's other matches. I don't know if Bobby Roode and Chad Gable are fighting the Authors of Pain.
I'm trying to look it up. Yep, Buddy Murphy is defending his title.
Oh, so it probably is the pre-show match.
Natalia versus Ruby Riott.
Oh, joy.
Tables match.
Hopefully that's on the pre-show. I mean, no offense to it, but that, God, WWE needs to do the draft more than once a year.
This whole feud is just awful. Natalia looks like a horrible person. It's awful. I can't even talk about it.
Yeah.
Natalia...
I mean, I think Ruby Riott has, out of the three of them, I think Ruby has the brighter future, but...
Oh, she does.
But I feel like Natalia should have been the one, it should have been swapped. Natalia should have been feuding with Alexa. Or maybe feuding with a heel Sasha Banks, God forbid. And Ruby and the Riott Squad should have been going against Ronda Rousey. Because, but Ruby Riott can't beat Ronda Rousey. I'm not saying she should, but you can get at least 3 months out of a stable versus a singles talent.
I think it's time for Natalia to... the woman is amazingly talented, but she hasn't accomplished much, and that's not through any fault of her own. But I think people like her and Mickie James kind of need to... I think it's time to step aside.
Now, if you had to pick a retiree for 2019, since you saying that made that pop into my head, would one of them be somebody you would like to see call it a career next year?
Yeah, and again, this is nothing towards Mickie James is a Hall of Famer, no doubt, but I just think that opens up space for, like, Bianca Belair or Candice LeRae, like, somebody to come from NXT. Mickey's accomplished all that she can accomplish, I believe.
I mean, it's funny how nice you are and how blunt I am. Like, it's a mixture.
You should see me at work. I'm going off today.
You should see me at work. I go off every day. Always a different reason to get pissed off about the morons that I work with. And
why I'm in therapy. Not why I'm in therapy, but he keeps me in therapy every week.
If I was in therapy, my therapist would need a therapist.
Oh God, yeah, I know. It's pretty bad. I brought her a Christmas present today. I hope that made up for it.
Yeah, my family's bad enough that we have a room reserved at a local mental hospital. Anybody watching, it's okay for us to make jokes about mental health because we have our own problems with mental health. So grow up. You want to pick a fight. I don't care.
Oh yeah, please listen. I'm the first one to make a joke about it because I know we all know what we're talking about.
Yeah. And plus, I've had family stay in a mental hospital. So it is kind of true that we could have a room reserved there.
Yeah.
But the other, since I'll work it into the video, since it is probably a fair time to start wrapping things up, I have been communicating with some other people about possibly putting together issue number 2 of OTB Central Magazine, and I figured now would be as good a time as any to ask you if you would be interested in coming on with another issue of the magazine.
Of course.
This one would be, of course, WrestleMania.
Oh, it's my favorite time of year.
It's the only time of year that's good to be a wrestling fan. Especially with modern WWE. But, the expected release for the magazine would probably be... I'm assuming WrestleMania would probably be April 7th, because I would figure April 14th is probably a little too late for it.
Yeah, that would be late.
So I would probably put it at the last weekend in March or somewhere in that area. Probably around what we did with the first issue of the magazine, but with some extra help and a little bit better of a marketing strategy for this one. I think that we could probably sell at least one copy that wasn't to me, which is the only person that bought the first one.
Yes.
I bought it, and I have one hanging up on the wall, framed, and I have another copy, in case anybody wants to read it, which most people don't even know I have it, because, nobody asks, but that's beside the point. But hopefully with a better marketing strategy and a little bit more attention to not being so secretive, maybe I can get more attention and more actual people interested in buying it, maybe going to a different site or what have you. But either way, glad to know you're interested in coming aboard and doing another article. And we will keep all of you listening up to date on that, or at least I will, because I'm I'm the brains behind the operation. But I don't do all the work. But with that being said, I'm sure we'll talk again. But we probably won't talk until after the holidays. So in that case, Merry Christmas.
You do?
That would have been awkward if you say you don't celebrate Christmas, but I'm glad you do.
No, I'm kidding. I wish I didn't celebrate Christmas. It's too expensive.
Damn right.
I'm working Christmas. I'm trying to get that time and a half.
No. I'd run people over with shopping carts if I worked on Christmas. Or pull a Triple H and pull out a sledgehammer and walk around. We're closing.
Listen, I control their coffee intake, so if they're mean, they're getting decaf. That's all I have to say.
It's time to go. Otherwise, I'll introduce you to my friend Barbie Wire.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said, once again, it's been a while since I actually put up any videos, which I think my last video might have been the last time we actually talked. Either way, I might be, you can, if you're listening, you could probably tell I'm a little rusty with it, but either way, let us know down in the comment section below what you thought of the video, and if you have any opinion on what we said, let us know, because feedback is always welcomed and appreciated. But if you don't want to leave a comment, you can always leave a like. Subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. And as always, thank you, Sam, for joining me once again. as we wrap up 2018.
Bye.